Hello, welcome back to Shock's Talks. I'm Shakti, and today we're talking about synchronicities. It's 11/11, November 11th, so we're going to talk about the 11/11 phenomena and other things and what they might mean in terms of synchronicities. But I've been on a little break because I kind of dip in and out of researching anomalous phenomena and then going back into my own practice and life and applying what I'm learning in practical ways that support me on my journey. And so that includes remote viewing practice. I'm starting to incorporate a little bit of PK practice, which is psychokinesis, telekinesis. I'm just trying to keep a playful and open mind and test out and try out some of the things that I'm seeing others do. And all of these things are physical or energetic acts that reinforce my understanding of the nature of reality and also kind of draw more of the mystery closer to me or deeper into my experience. So on this channel, you'll find UFO history and related topics. You'll find some discussion of ancient spirituality and how it applies to modern magic and anomalous experiences. And today it's just going to be a really casual conversation, kind of an energy update, which is why I'm in my bathrobe, because we're just going to be cozy together. So I'm going to start off with a symbolic coziness dedication act of lighting this hot chocolate candle. It smells pretty good. It kind of reminds me of like a chocolate My Little Pony. I don't know how else to describe it. Those plastic toys that used to have a scent to them. That's what this reminds me of. But with this act, I am invoking peace and comfort and sweetness for all who are participating in this invocation. Cheers. Okay. And I'm going to drink my coffee while we talk. So next time we're together, I will most likely be discussing the UAP topic again because there is some interesting stuff going on. Since we've last been together, there was the annual Global Disclosure Day. There was this really long live stream of all these great conversations, and that was put on by the New Paradigm Institute. That's Daniel Sheehan's organization. And coming up soon, there's going to be a documentary that we're all pretty excited about. Let me find the exact title here. Where is it? Oh, The Age of Disclosure. So this is going to premiere in about 10 days. And so that'll be very exciting. There's going to be a lot to share. UAP Twitter is constantly chaos. There's a lot of drama because Kelly Chase posted a video talking about, well, it was a Cosmosis origin story. It was like a mini doc that her and J. Christopher King are doing. And they basically just talked about like their own experiences in the community and alluded to some kind of nefarious thing, like some kind of entanglement where they just didn't say what happened, but you could kind of imagine maybe they were threatened or messed with, but they were very vague about it and also referred to it as like Kafkaesque, meaning like very disorienting and surreal. So it's really hard to say what happened there. But I can say from my own experience that, when it comes to anomalous traumas, especially, things can flare up and ramp up really quickly and kind of go from 0 to 100. And it's almost like a bad trip, and it can happen for so many different reasons, but basically you can get tangled up in dark energies is one way of just simplifying it. And that can be human or other. So I've kind of pulled back whenever things are getting dramatic and people are starting to argue over he said, she said, this person is a liar, that person is worth listening to, this is disinformation, that's information, look over here, don't look over there. Whenever it gets like that, I just back away, because I'm not looking at that. That's just the pettiness of that occurs within this realm, and I think it's important to just zoom way back out and look at the big picture, long term, long story. And in terms of that, the other thing that was interesting that you might have missed was on the Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp interviewed James Lacatski, and that was really interesting. And Lacatski referred to this Kona Blue program, a special access program about reverse engineering. And the New Paradigm Institute in their newsletter linked the download. Sorry, I'm looking at my computer and trying to pull this over here. Okay. They linked a download to the full document, which is like 50 some pages. I haven't read all of it. I've just scanned through it. But it's cool to like look at an official FOIA released declassified document. Yes, there are redactions, so there's things crossed out in it. But in that interview, Lacatski referred to like one important sentence that might have had a clue to all of this. And the New Paradigm Institute decided to use AI to try to locate that sentence, which I think is honestly just like a dumb approach. I hate to say it, but it's 56 pages. Just have humans look at it using intuition in combination with their intelligence and awareness of this topic, and have them identify what that sentence might be. But, people are into trying these things out with AI, and I'm going to try to find it for you, what the sentence was that they pulled out with the AI. But when I heard it, I was like, I don't think that's it. It didn't ping in my system. It didn't say, my truth meter did not say, yes, that is the sentence. That's really important. But even the New Paradigm Institute admitted that like this might not be what he was referring to, but it's still a sentence worth considering. And this is what they pulled out, the following passage. All deliverables are dependent on the initial analysis and assessment of associated, existing, and discovered information and materials. According to our AI model, this sentence stands out because it implies possession or access to physical artifacts, discovered materials within a top-secret special access program. While we cannot confirm this is the exact line Dr. Lacatski referenced, it is an intriguing lead that deserves further attention. So the reason I don't think that that's the most interesting sentence is because towards the end of the interview, what Lacatski was saying really kind of in a playful, poking kind of way, like a little twinkle in his eye, like, you guys, everybody's obsessed with the nuts and bolts. Everybody wants to get into this crash retrieval stuff, but this topic and what you will learn when you uncover the truth of like what's being studied and what's being kept secret goes so beyond the nuts and bolts. Basically, yes, we can obtain physical materials and we can work with that information within physical matter reality to yield real results. Like, yeah, we can build craft, we can reverse engineer, we can create weapons, we can create energy systems, but the implications of what this phenomena is pointing to are so much bigger. Basically alluding to this idea that like what this all boils down to is a greater understanding of the nature of reality, which we know here on Shocks Talks, because we've been talking about this for a long time. And, I know that I don't present things in a way that is like, I'm not doing this to make a living doing this. I'm doing this because I love talking about it. And Yes, I would love to do more as time goes on, but really I just want to talk about it because I think it's interesting, and I love to feel validated when I kind of find the right thread and then see that reinforced over time. And I feel like that's been happening here on this channel. And it's buried deep within, all of my chit chat, because obviously not every episode is scripted like I used to do. Sometimes I would just kind of do my little book reports and read them out loud. But it feels right to do it this way. And what I have learned through my own study, and what you would probably learn too if you were reading all the books and looking into all of the information around this topic, is that eventually the nuts and bolts, it only gets you so far. The nature of reality is what this all boils down to. And there's this much bigger story of understanding this consciousness system that we are all existing within, that actually goes beyond physical matter reality and includes other beings, or what Tom Campbell would call consciousness units. So Leslie Kean, for example, the investigative journalist who broke the 2017 New York Times article, she wrote UFOs, generals, pilots, and government officials go on the record. And then she wrote Surviving Death. And Surviving Death is all about the afterlife and channeling and mediumship. Now, why would you leap from one to the next? Why would those be the two big books that you write, Well, if you study the topic, you know that it's obvious, because one anomalous phenomena leads to another. And Kai Dickens, who produced the Telepathy Tapes, which got hugely popular in recent times and continues to be very compelling. They're on season 2 now. Season 1 covers this topic of telepathy among nonverbal autistic folks who also have apraxia, so they have a hard time regulating their bodies. And what the families and caretakers learned is that these kids had capabilities that go beyond just normal human capabilities, maybe because of the fact that they were limited in some ways, just like how people who have limited senses in one area, like maybe they can't see, develop greater ability to hear and feel and smell and taste, maybe. So these kids developed their telepathic abilities and also started talking about all these spiritual concepts and started talking about connecting to angels and guides and people in other realms. And they were also able to meet up in these virtual chat rooms in consciousness that they call the Hill, where they can all get together non-locally, non-physically, and actually pass information that can be verified. And there's now more rigorous science being done around this topic as more interest and public awareness just is heightened. And I saw a demonstration with one of these kids at the Psy Games this past summer, and they're working on documentaries about this. And season 2 of the Telepathy Tapes is focusing on what? The afterlife. And I don't know if Kai Dickens openly stated this, but she is literally following in the footsteps of Leslie Kean, because her season 2 of the Telepathy Tapes is following the same pattern as the book Surviving Death, which I covered just a couple episodes ago if you want to check that out. So it's okay. We need to repeat these things. It's not like anyone is making this brand new discovery that was never made before. We're all just like trying to wake ourselves up to things that have been studied before and have been talked about before and have been experienced before. But we're all falling back asleep constantly in reality. And that is the nature of the game. Tom Campbell calls it entropy. There's this degrading in this information system where things want to kind of go down to the lowest common denominator. And it is our purpose as individuated units of consciousness to override that or to kind of fight against it. So in a way, in reality, all of us are always kind of swimming upstream if we want to move towards truth and love. And that can be felt and experienced. And so when I'm talking about this, like falling back asleep, it happens to me too. It's so easy to slip back into this status quo mental framework, because there are so many factors that are contributing to us remaining locked in a certain way of thinking and being in reality. And for those who are on a spiritual path or a magical path, or even a path of just learning the truth of anomalous phenomena and supernatural happenings, we have to really work hard against that entropic nature of reality and against all of the different powers that be that want to maintain the status quo. And we have to keep waking ourselves up to this greater truth. But what's really interesting and fun, and why this is happening today, this episode on 11/11, and I'm talking about 11/11 and other synchronicities, is that the universe itself, or the larger consciousness system itself, is also helping us to wake up in all kinds of different ways all the time. So there's this playful and conscious nature to the very system within which we exist. And something that is a pretty widespread phenomena is seeing or experiencing 11/11. So this may have happened to you. Lots of different YouTubers have covered this. Lots of people have talked about it. For me, it started happening around 2011, 2012. And that's when I began to experience heightened synchronicities in my life that went out of control, almost to a maddening level, because sometimes it ramps up so hard that you start to feel crazy and you start to really lose track of what's going on. I think the way to come back into a grounded, centered place with synchronicities is to just keep it kind of light and let yourself be in a little bit more of a magical thinking space while it's happening. Because if you try to get too literal and clamp down on it, you can actually drive yourself crazy, or you can feel very paranoid. And synchronicities, they don't always have a conclusive message or answer, or they're not always leading you to a place or a thing. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're just like these little pings, these little bursts of energy that really wake you up. They make you feel a certain way, and they kind of make you feel almost like a little chill going up your spine or something along those lines. It's like a little bit unsettling, almost scary at times. Sometimes it's just purely delightful and joyful. Other times, if you become too obsessed with it, you can start kind of forcing it, and then you're kind of just making it happen for yourself. So I recommend just flowing with the synchronicities, noticing them, speaking about them, writing them down, but let them flow. Don't try to grab down on them, because that usually does not yield the best result in my experience. Anyway, for what it's worth, that's just how I approach it. So 11/11, people will talk about things like it's a wake-up call. And it's, you'll hear all kinds of things in New Age talk, like 5D or ascension. People are leveling up. You'll hear things like the veil is thinning, and all of those things come with so much energy behind them based on the different people who carry those concepts and imbue them with their own thoughts. And sometimes the flavor of those concepts gets a little tainted for some of us, or it doesn't work for everyone, or it starts to feel cheesy, or it just starts to feel gross because it's laden with all of this energy, as concepts are in this reality. And even though we are not in contact with all the people that are holding a concept in their mind, when we come into contact with the concept, we're also coming into contact with all of the different consciousness units that are carrying that concept and contributing to its definition, in my opinion. Because we're in an information-based system, it is like a virtual system. And so all of these UAP, UFO people, they all kind of start heading in the same direction, which is towards a kind of simulation theory. But unfortunately, we haven't all gotten aligned yet on what that really means. For me, Tom Campbell's theory of everything is the best model for reality, because it's loose enough to be able to hold many different spiritual concepts openly. You can kind of find other little pathways to this greater pathway, but other people who have simulation theories are still locked in the nuts and bolts of physical matter reality, and they're trying to force that square peg into the round hole. And so in their theories, they're taking things so literally, and they're thinking of a simulation as an actual computer, like we're in some kind of computer game or we're in some alien's computer console or whatever. Anything is possible, but I personally resonate more with Tom Campbell's theory of everything, which is just a modern retelling of other spiritual theories that have been presented in the past, like Buddhism, for example. And he will often say, like, you know, what I call a simulation, the Buddha called the illusion or the Maya. So what Tom Campbell is talking about, just to recap, I know you've probably heard this from me before, but I think it's worth repeating. Consciousness is the computer. So consciousness is all of reality. It's the system. And we are also consciousness. So the ocean and the drops of the ocean. Individuated units of consciousness that we are. We do have these continuous, maybe even linear pathways through time and space, through this virtual simulated reality. The time part of it is part of this subset that we currently exist within. There are realms beyond our own where time does not exist or it moves differently. But in physical matter reality, he calls it PMR, we have physics that describe the rules or the rule set of this virtual system. But because we are consciousness and the system is consciousness itself, there's like all kinds of things that are possible. Glitches, anomalies, upgrades, system reboot, copy paste, like truly all these things are possible theoretically within this virtual reality that we're all living within. So a phenomena like 1111, for example, could be coming from the consciousness system itself to each individuated unit of consciousness as part of an overall system upgrade to help us to become aware of new information. Because everything here is information. And there's been a lot of talk about, you know, when people say the veil is thinning, what they're referring to is we are seeing beyond the rule set into the greater truth of reality. And that's the most exciting thing in the world to me, because what that could mean for all of us is richer experiences in our lives, better ability to connect with one another and with life itself, and to affect change at a greater degree or to a greater degree. If we can see through to the larger reality, there's this potential for us to have a connection between the living and the dead, the physical and the non-physical, the humans and the non-humans, the NHI. When Tom Campbell is asked about aliens and UAP and all that kind of stuff, which he doesn't talk about a whole lot, it used to annoy me because he would kind of say, like, there's a possibility that none of those things really exist in physical matter reality, and that what we're dealing with here is actually just more consciousness units that are non-physical, but they can connect to us because we're all consciousness and consciousness is netted. And they can also penetrate into this physical matter reality from other dimensional realities or other virtual systems, basically. And it would frustrate me because I would think to myself, well, why are people having abduction experiences then? And why are they actually finding crashed UFOs and they're able to take those materials into a lab and reverse engineer them? Because there's strong evidence to suggest that that is happening. And Tom Campbell would say things like, well, the larger consciousness system can insert anything into this reality. It can render anything. So if it wants to show us a UFO, that's no problem. That's just information. It's just a computation. The system can say, boom, here you go. Technically, any miracle or anomaly that anyone experiences is happening in the same way. It's just virtual information. It's a packet of information being rendered for whoever's experiencing it. So what it means is that don't be surprised if in your life you start to see or experience more anomalies as time goes on. And it's likely that you'll only get as much as you can handle. You're not going to get overloaded. You're not going to necessarily see a reptilian in your living room like Barbara Lamb did, or you're not necessarily going to experience a healing miracle like somebody else. It's specific to each person. It has to do, there's so many factors that are interwoven in terms of what we experience and what we're here to do and see and be. But there seems to be this heightening of these kinds of things for people. So I like Tom Campbell's work because his language and his metaphors just kind of clean the slate of all of that heaviness that I was talking about that concepts carry. And he tries to simplify and purify some of these esoteric and more spiritual, larger concepts. And he uses computer and sort of like modern technical language to help us wrap our minds around these ancient concepts that have always existed. And I think a new term that all of us who are spiritual have also started to view in that same way is the algorithm, because we all interact with algorithms like on our computers and phones. And so we can see how the algorithm starts to give us certain things that we're looking for in a way. Well, reality and synchronicities seem to operate in a similar way. The more you notice them, the more you see them. The more you tune your awareness to a specific topic, the more it begins to show up in your experience. Now, this is, again, this doesn't happen to get us all spun out on like, oh my God, I am in a computer. I'm just in some alien's phone and I'm in the algorithm and this is happening and oh my God. It's not to do that. But the universe is playful and it knows us and it knows what we're obsessed with, which is currently our own technology, which is mirroring the nature of reality itself, as most of our creations do. And so it's playing with us in that same voice, in that same way. And it's always going to be changing, it's always going to be changing. But we're all tuned in to this concept of the algorithm. And so the universe gives us information in the language of the algorithm right now. So if you start to see 1111, or any other number that repeats, people talk about angel numbers. I used to see somebody's birthday that I was in love with all the time. And I would see it for years after we stopped talking, and it would really kind of torture me. It was kind of annoying and it never really led anywhere. But what does that tell me? It just tells me that some part of me was still deeply entangled with that energy, and therefore it was being reflected back to me, I think is the most simple way of viewing it. Sometimes the messages aren't that deep. Sometimes there's not some hidden treasure at the end of the rainbow. It's just a little burst of awareness to remind us that we are part of this larger living system, and it's looking at us, So let's bring this back down into the practical. So for me right now, and I've been thinking of life in this way for so many years now. It's definitely been over a decade. I mean, it's been most of my life because I was raised with spiritual concepts, but in 2009 to 2012, 13, around that period in my life, things were really popping off. It was very, very heightened. And during that time, some of the books that really helped me were the Carlos Castaneda books, actually. And learning about those experiences kind of tuned me into, it kind of validated a lot of what I was going through, and it just tuned me into this magical spiritual reality that we're all a part of. And it's just been nonstop ever since then. I've met so many people that have had these kinds of interesting anomalous experiences. Sometimes I just encounter random strangers and they're open with me saying like, yeah, I've been noticing this too. And I'm like, okay, nobody's special here. We're all, most of us, many of us are going through this. So what do we do with it? So one of the things that I love to do is to take my awareness of the nature of reality and use it to change the way that I interact with everything around me. And the reason I was thinking of Carlos Castaneda is because I remember that some of those teachers talked about the way that they would interact with their spaces, their physical homes and spaces and objects and items, as if they have personality. I didn't know that animism was what I was into until somebody mentioned it to me and said, oh, it sounds like you're into animism. And I was like, well, I don't really know what that even means, And he said, it's everything has a spirit. And I was like, oh yeah, I've always learned that since I was a kid. Every rock, every stream, every tree, every book, every brick in the house, everything that we interact with, this phone, this cup. And it is very anti-capitalist and anti-materialist to be animistic, I think, which is a good thing. Because animism teaches us to love and invoke the spirit in every object that we interact with. So from our car to the clothes that we wear, it encourages a relationship of care and understanding with everything, which can then translate into every other being, every creature, and every human. And these are things that are going to have a profound impact on the larger systems. Sometimes looking at these topics can feel so overwhelming, like there's too much to do, too many great powers that be are controlling the narrative and hoarding information, and what impact could I ever have? Well, you can have a huge impact if you just bring everything right back down into your own center and into your own daily experience. If each one of us takes on this great task, we are instantly transforming reality. So starting with just care and listening and perceiving the energies of the things around you. And the more that you put your awareness into a thing, it's almost like you're creating this place for spirit or consciousness to enter into. And then you're energizing everything around you, and it's all going to work better and flow better and feel better. And it's a give and a take. You come into your home and your home just hugs you. It just comforts you. It takes care of you. It recharges you, instead of coming home and feeling like resentful because something is a mess or something needs to be done that isn't done. It's this loving energy of like recognition, like, thank you for existing, you beautiful structure. Like, you keep me safe, and you've kept so many people safe before me. I wonder who those people were. Let me just sit and meditate on all the people that lived in my house before me, and let me value and be grateful for them, because they made it so that I could be here now. They took care of this and that, and they replaced this and they replaced that. What can I do to keep this place safe and to prepare it for the next people that might be here, But also, like, what is the personality of this place? How can I love and nurture it? Like, my house has a name. My car has a name, And these little tiny acts have a huge, huge impact on the way that I feel and the way that I experience reality and the way that I go out into the world. When I was growing up, our teacher growing up used to say, like, leave every place better than you found it. And he was talking about, like, go to the public restroom, and if you find trash on the ground, don't add more trash to the pile. Pick up what was there. Make it nicer for the next person. These little tiny tweaks are everything. These little tiny changes in the way that we go about our daily business is the foundation for the big changes that we're all looking to create in reality. Another way to take that focus and apply it for a practical positive effect is towards your own body. And this is one of the hardest things because there's so much that is ingrained in us that teaches us to be pretty negative towards our bodies and pretty thoughtless. But our body is this conglomeration of all these different cells and pieces of information, if you want to look at it in the virtual sense, these little packets of information that are programs, that are running. And there's factors that are creating these structures, but ultimately we, the consciousness that has been given this whole body, we have a lot of power over how those things flow and operate based on how we think and how we run our energy and manage our energy. And that's what healing work is all about. And that's what energy work is all about. And so if there's nothing else we can do in a single lifetime but to just gain some kind of mastery over our own bodies in this reality, I mean, what a great feat that would be, And it's not, the body is given to us not as something that is just easy to interact with and perfect in every way from the get-go so that we never have any challenges. It's here to help us evolve our consciousness and our soul. So we will have challenges that we have to accept and work with. We will have limitations. We will have, all kinds of conditions that we come into this life with that we need to find our own way with. It's different for each one of us. So nobody can say here's the way for everybody. But yoga is based in this teaching that, you can balance the energy, you can balance the mind, you can use the breath, and you can perfect the body with all of these tools and therefore perfect your spiritual self as well, because you're relating the physical to the non-physical, as above, so below. In this reality, there are many other mirrored realities, and each reality is affecting the other. So what that means for us is just start where you're at and affect what you can affect. And the most easy and direct and powerful thing to begin affecting is your own self and then the space around you. And then you can spread out from there. But it's already a life's work just to tackle those two first initial steps, So what I've been doing, instead of reading and researching, like I said, I've been focusing on my space and my own inner space as well. I did an overhaul of my bedroom because I needed to shift some energy. I'm still going through a grief process around losing my dog. I've been dipping in and out of the remote viewing, but not as heavily involved in that as I was a couple weeks ago, but I'll keep going. I think I'm up to about 80 some sessions. But I'm really trying to work with my own energy again and just kind of ground into what do I need to do to take care of my body and my energy, because things have been feeling crazy. So I don't know if it's these solar flares and solar storms or if it's just the collective psyche, but there's these peaks of energy that feel so massive and ungrounding. Some people kind of blame it on the astrology, which yes, there's always different things going on when it comes to that. But a couple weeks ago, I'm in some dance classes and we do energy work also, and we do ancestral work and we connect to each other. And as soon as you start connecting in a community like that and doing somatic work and releasing through your body, you start to have these synchronicities with the whole group where everybody had a crazy week or everybody had a beautiful thing happen, And it's because we're connecting our consciousness through intention and we're working together. We're doing spiritual work together. And so there was this one week a couple weeks ago where everybody had a really, really hard time. And it was so enlightening and somewhat comforting to find out that I wasn't alone in my experience. And the teacher, she also works for the 4-H, she works with horses and she works with autistic kids. She said on this one day, all the kids were dysregulated. They were like losing it, and all the horses were acting up. And it's never that way. These horses are trained to do this special work, but everybody felt ungrounded. And what that shows me is, even though we may not know where it's coming from or what it is, we're all sharing an experience. And so instead of putting our energy towards understanding what that is necessarily, just what do we need to do to balance it out? What do we need to do to ground? And for me, one of the most grounding things is actually just being alone in my space, which is a huge privilege that I'm grateful to have, because it actually feels so overstimulating in reality sometimes that it's painful. And you may have gone through this too, and it kind of makes you feel like you want to rip off your own skin, or maybe engage in some harming behaviors, whether it's just eating something bad or drinking too much or other things. It can escalate from there. So when those things are happening, sometimes the best we can do is to just stop everything, get in some water, get on the earth, hug a tree, take a nap, I put earplugs in my ears and headphones over the earplugs and a blindfold over my eyes one day because I just needed low stimulation, So I think that's all we need to talk about today. Next week, like I said, we'll get back into some UAP stuff, but I just wanted to do this as kind of an energy update. I wanted to come back on and just connect again. And I hope that something in here resonates or is helpful. If there's a way that I could be better, like if there's something that you like or don't like about this, I am genuinely open to your feedback, because this is not just for me, this is my offering to you, and I do want to improve over time. So please let me know in the comments, or you can email me, because my Shocks Talks email is in the description box where I put all the links and everything. Let me know. Let me know what you think. For example, do you want me to script out these episodes? Do you prefer the bullet point versions? Do you like it when I follow current events in the UAP stuff, or do you like it when it's more off the cuff? Do you want more of the magical stuff? Do you want more practical tools and practices? Do you want to start a group together? Should we do some work together on this channel where we come back week after week and have a little homework? Are there any things like that that you would like to see change on this channel? Please let me know. And we will close out this session with a simple intention back to our hot chocolate candle. It is my intention that we all, as consciousness in a consciousness system, feel the truth of reality in the ways that are best for all, that we may continue to expand our awareness, experience new and beautiful things, people, places, dreams, creations, and that as the veil continues to thin or truth emerges, that the process be smooth and tolerable, that we experience synchronicities joyfully and playfully, and are free from the need to drive ourselves mad with our own curiosity, that we flow with trust, and that we all remain connected to our true essence, our deep inner knowing, the pure love that we are. It is so, as above, so below. All right, see you next time.